So this video will be about the twins' journey in the NICU, SCBU or special care. So after the twins were born, they went straight down to the neonatal unit and were assessed to see what they needed. And so Charlie was on CPAP, which is where they have the snorkel and have the air pushed up to the nose, and Tom just had what we call optiflow, which is just oxygen up the nose. And so CPAP is boiled. It's like steam air, I should say. And so we've been very, very blessed with the way they progressed through that journey. Having the steroids, I had it 3 times throughout my pregnancy, really helped develop their lungs and their brain. So we're very blessed that they didn't have any major issues. So when they came out, they had some antibiotics, they had some probiotics, they had some other drugs. Basically they were only in neonatal for a week. And that was only because they had the room for them, otherwise they were going to SCBU because there were no other issues. And so Tom was self-ventilating after 4 days, so he was having no assistance with his breathing, which was amazing. I should add their weight, sorry. So Tom was 1.2 and Charlie was 1.2 and 40 grams. So they're very similar in their weight. And so we thought Tom was growth restricted because of the percent of the blood flow, but obviously he was growing fine. And so that was really good for their gestation. That was a good weight for them. And then Charlie was on CPAP for over a week, then went on to optiflow. He as well had all the same stuff as medications. And so my first cuddle was the day after the birth, and I only got to cuddle one baby. So I got Tom and Dad got Charlie. And so that first skin to skin with them, which they encourage, what we call kangaroo care. And so we would do that all day, every day. Normally in NICU they allow 1 a day. In special care it's a bit different. You can get them out maybe once or twice depending on how they're doing and who's got on and things like that. And so each day we'd swap twins, or sometimes we'd do double cuddles depending on how busy it was and things like that. And so double cuddles, the first, I think it was 2 days after, I got to do double cuddles with the boys. And so they'd always be down my top on my chest. And I should add, by this stage I was pumping and expressing, so I wasn't able to breastfeed for quite a while, and so I was pumping at home as well as at the hospital. That's a whole different story. I'll do a video on that later on. And so after the first week, the boys had come off, all the lines are taken out, so any intravenous lines that all come out. So Tom basically was just had leads on. That's all he had, and Charlie was still on the optiflow. Then the Saturday they moved to special care in Women's and Children's, and by this time we had actually put in for a transfer to go to Lama because that was closer to home. Because travelling an hour each way was, after what we've been through, it was quite tiring, and so we'd asked for to be transferred. And finding 2 beds at that time was a bit busy for them. And so the first week in SCBU was where they're still in their cribs and everything else. And Charlie, after the 3rd day, had come off his optiflow, but wasn't coping very well. And I knew he'd go back on, and the next day he was back on. But still, that was quite hard. That was a step back. And so I guess because we had such a good time, they'd all had all these steps forward. They hadn't taken any steps back. And you read so much about, NICU journeys are about steps back and step forward. And so I knew it was going to come. Like, I knew there'd be 1 step back at one stage, and it never happened. And then and then obviously Charlie had to go back. And it wasn't a big thing. Like, it was only on it for a couple more days, and then he was fine. It was okay, and he was self-ventilating. And all he had his lines taken out as well. So when you're in NICU and SCBU, the nurses are just wonderful. They're just lovely. And we were very much encouraged to be hands-on parents and do as much as we can. So we do what we call cares, and so cares were done at certain times for the babies, normally every 3 to 4 hours depending on the schedule. So cares means that we clean their face, so we clean their eyes and their mouth. We also then change their leads, to make sure that there's no pressure on one certain foot or arm depending where it was. We also changed their nappies, and and for the first week and a bit they were on obviously their gas tube was in their tummy, and they were getting constantly fed for the first week, so there was no break in feed, it was just constantly going in. And by the second week they were up to gavage feeds. So gavage feed is where you feed them through a syringe and you pressure it down and it goes into their tummy, so they getting used to be getting fed every 3 hours, so they're getting used to being hungry, getting used to getting fed. And obviously you'd encourage a dummy at that time, and they'll suck the dummy and they'll associate dummy sucking with having a feed. So that was the second week in Skaboo, and and Barry had gone back to work, so I was relying on people to get in and out because I wasn't able to drive. I'm very blessed to be able to get in and out, and that's for the reason why I wanted to go to Lamacune, because it's closer to home for us. And you know, Barry travelling from work to home was quite tiring on all of us. And so the transfer had gone through the end of the second week, so we were quite lucky to get to Lamacune. And so I think we transferred on the Friday, and they transferred the boys through, and I met them at the Lamacune. And the staff there were wonderful as well, and it was all lovely. And that they were 2 weeks old by that stage, and so technically they were 32 weeks in gestation. And so we had started in the week after we started to introduce breastfeeding. So there was just, you know, getting them on the boob and just trying to see what they would do, and doing that every day and twice a day if possible, trying to get that established. And that journey went really well. It's changed a bit now, and I'll talk about that in another video later on. And so the boys just progressed well. They just put on weight, and we did the same thing. We're just there all day, every day. And I was still obviously recovering from the surgery, and I was a bit tired. And it's kind of a blur now. Like, looking back at it now, like, it just doesn't seem like it happened. It just seems like they've just been home with us since the beginning. And so they were there for 5 weeks, and they then came home at 36 weeks. And so they had come off their monitors and were on all suck feeds, which means either breast or bottle. There was no need for the tube. And that happens very quickly. So you get to a stage where you know, you're having all these tests. So they'd have blood tests, they would have scans on head, scans on heart, scans on lungs, all very, you know, routine, happen very, very, very closely. So they're very monitored, and so that becomes second nature to us. In the last week, it went from, you know, 2 gavage feeds and all suck feeds, and suck feeds, and then it went all suck feeds, and that happened the progression was very quickly. And so once, because as long as they're doing suck feeds and putting on weight, they're happy for them to go home. So they came home on, I think, was it Monday, the public holiday, the 11th of June. They came home, and it was, they were still quite tiny. They were still 2.2 kilos, 2.3, so they're still really tiny babies. They're really still small, but just yeah. And so they came home, and their first night, obviously being in a brand new environment, they didn't sleep at all. But after that, we got established, and they were sleeping really well and eating really well. So it was such a relief to get them home, you know. And you know, and it's just, it changes your world, you know. Having babies in hospital and having babies at home is a different experience. I mean, at hospital you've got people to look after them for you, but at home it all depends on what you do. And so that's why at hospital we were involved as much as possible, doing as much as we can, so we could prepare what it would be like when they came home. And having twins is hard work, you know. I'm not going to deny that having twins is easy or hard work. It is hard work, but it's worth it. I mean, there are days where I don't want to do it and I just want to sleep, but obviously they're not going to allow me to do that because they're babies. And so you just need to, you know, get on with it and, you know, look after them. So I'll talk about pumping in my next video, and expressing and breastfeeding.